that's our hope, is that we will gain insights of what is the similarities and differences between brain and machines. And that could open a new era.
We often hear about artificial intelligence learning like a brain, but can an artificial neural network ever truly mimic the brain's astounding complexity? The answer lies somewhere between physical and virtual reality.
In a first-of-its-kind experiment, AI played a major role in unlocking the secrets of the brain and helping scientists complete what has been called the most challenging neuroscience experiment ever attempted, the Microns project.
According to Reid, a senior investigator at the Allen Institute, it's the culmination of 2 decades of work, dating back to his days at Harvard.
The project started almost exactly 20 years ago. And it was very soon after the first paper in what became the field of EM connectomics. And a student and I just decided this is the time. Let's start reconstructing neural circuits with electron microscopy.
In April of 2025, a global team of scientists unveiled the Microns project to the world. Over 7 years, they mapped the connections and electrical firing properties of a single cubic millimeter of the mouse visual cortex.
This functional wiring diagram reveals the location of 500 million synapses, contains the path of around 4 kilometers of axons, and begins to reveal the language of the brain, how cells talk to one another in a dizzying labyrinth of neurons and connections.
It's been compared to the Apollo moonshot and the Human Genome Project. In a 1979 issue of Scientific American, famed biologist Francis Crick, the man who discovered the shape of DNA, said something like this was impossible.
I mean, the whole story of that quote, it just makes me happy. You know, here's the Scientific American from 1979. I got a copy of this and was just astounded to read, it is no use asking for the impossible, such as, say, the exact wiring diagram for a cubic millimeter of brain tissue and the way all its neurons are firing, because that's exactly the experiment that we just finished up and, are publishing.
I'm Liz DeWicki.
I'm Amatia Teresi. And this is Lab Notes.
It's like a demonstration that big projects in neuroscience can succeed to a deliverable. And we in academia can work together, even if we're in different institutions, to achieve something bigger than the sum of our parts.
That's Andreas Tolias, a Stanford professor who started his work on the Microns project while at Baylor College of Medicine.
For about 100 years now, there's been 2 major parallel tracks, 3 really, let's say, try to understand the brain. One is anatomically, what is the anatomy of the brain? And then there was also a behavioral psychological approach where people were measuring the behavior of the brain. And neuroscience, you can sort of think of it as like structural molecular characterization, functionally, because it's dynamical system, how is activity generated, and then the behavioral, what is it related to things. And what is unique about this process, this project, is trying for the first time at the large scale, bring all these 3 things together.
When it comes to data collection, what the Microns project accomplished is nothing short of extraordinary. A dream team of scientists from the Allen Institute, Baylor College of Medicine, and Princeton digitally reconstructed around 200,000 cells, pinpointing more than 523 million synaptic connections. Every one of those cells, neurons, and synapses adding up to an astounding 1.6 petabytes of data. It's like taking a real brain in space and time and creating its virtual twin in the digital world.
So how did machine learning help tackle this impossible challenge? First came the physical part. Scientists at Baylor used special microscopes to record the brain activity in mice while they were watching video clips from YouTube. Then researchers at the Allen Institute used an electron microscope to take 95 million high-res images of that same portion of brain.
And then this data had to be stitched back together, which is not a trivial problem because, when you slice it, things may shrink a little bit, they change. So now you have to stitch all these slices together.
This is where the real magic of machine learning materializes. Scientists at Princeton University used AI to digitally reconstruct the cells and their connection into a 3D wiring model. Combined with the recordings of brain activity from Baylor, the result was the largest wiring diagram and functional map of the brain to date.
We haven't proven the entire thing. I think right now maybe we have like 1,000 neurons where their axons have been proven out of the tens of thousands. So all that stuff, the entire, basically machine learning and AI was used not just to build a digital twin, but almost every step of the processing pipeline to go from the EM data, which you can think of it as pixels with different intensities across thousands of images that are part of this 3D volume. To do that, it was all machine learning to make those images and make those pictures. And then on the physiology side, there's the equivalent like deep neural networks and everything to get. So basically, it's like this project also, I think, as you said, brought in the sort of full force of modern machine learning and AI to bear to be able to synthesize a picture.
The picture it created has been compared to that of a galaxy. The image of the reconstructed brain is set against a dark backdrop, its rectangular structure consisting of glowing threads that intertwine into tangles that represent the brain's delicate architecture. The goal, says Forrest Colman from the Allen Institute,
to really trace out all the individual wires and synapses that exist in this chunk of brain and really see all the cells, all the pieces, and kind of put it all back together again.
Beyond the beauty of its form is its function. This project also identified how the brain works, the language its cells use to communicate with each other.
Let's imagine that you record all of the conversations in a party.
Nuno da Costa, an associate investigator at the Allen Institute, explains why it's so important to fuse form with function.
And you know what each person is saying, but you don't know with whom they are talking to. And then separately, you get that information to whom each one is talking to. So if you just have the two separate, you might not be able to kind of make sense of it because you don't know who's talking to, who's replying to. You just have a map of the conversation, and the other one, you don't know what people are saying. But by putting these two together, you get both to know what each person is saying and to whom is talking to. And that's really special about this.
Another special aspect of Microns comes straight out of Hollywood science fiction.
Can you talk a little bit about this mouse watching The Matrix, like how that whole thing came to be?
So what we did is like we chose movies, or we made some movies, and one of them was, let's say, The Matrix, Mad Max, that had a lot of energy, like a lot of action movies, right? So that's how they were chosen. We showed mostly every stimulus once, and then few of them we repeated because we wanted to sample as much as possible the statistics of natural images. For example, we wanted to show some scenes that had fast movement, slow movement, optic flow, different scenes, different objects, stuff like that, things crashing, things not crashing, you can think of it like that.
So essentially, it wasn't about plugging the mouse into a simulated reality. The goal was to observe how neurons in the visual cortex respond to dynamic, real-world scenes that would stimulate survival mode in the mouse.
And that is where the idea of a digital twin comes in. Microns isn't just about mapping the brain, it's about creating a functional, predictive model of how the brain works, a replica capable of responding like a real brain.
So basically, by the time we finished the encoded data, we could utilize deep neural networks to build these predictive models or digital twins of the mouse. And I think that captured people's imagination too, because a lot of people are interested in brain simulations. Can we simulate the brain?
Now, instead of using live mice, thanks to the Microns digital twin, countless experiments can be run through virtual experimentation. Scientists can test their hypotheses and generate answers faster and at a lower cost.
Microns might also be the next step in understanding and improving artificial intelligence.
But the brain, if you think about it, when I talk to you and then you answer back to me, there's activity in your brain that is processing this information. So if we find a way to bring in together the neural activity with the behavioral revolution in AI, we will, first of all, try to understand how the brain and the mind works, which is the main goal. But this could also be a new type of fuel, like a nuclear fuel for AI.
The project was partly funded by the federal government through the BRAIN Initiative and the Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity, also known as IARPA. The goal is to close the gap between man and machine, to build better AI models that can recognize patterns and make inferences like our brains can.
We can copy some of the way the brain does computation, and then we can compare it to a biological digital twin of the brain to an artificial one that is trained, let's say, by Google or whatever, or OpenAI. And now we can compare the two.
Projects like Microns could help us better understand the underlying logic of incredibly powerful AI models. This understanding would, in turn, significantly enhance the safety of these systems as the world increasingly relies on them.
So right now, AI is not as well grounded in a scientific theory of intelligence. It's more like a brute force engineering that we just have a lot of money, a lot of resources, and we're just pouring them in because we're in a race. And what is a bit, some people are scared, is that we're building things that are incredibly intelligent, but we don't really understand how they're thinking. And there is evidence that they do things like jailbreaking. They will lie to us. One of the things that people are concerned about in AI is, and I'm sure you hear about it all the time, it's not so much about conscious. I mean, some people care about that too, but it's more about safety, right? Mm-hmm. We humans are at the verge, we've already kind of built something that is super intelligent and may surpass us, at least in its cognitive capabilities. And maybe in robotics too, but we do not understand how it works.
Andreas believes the brain has a code we can understand, and if we can crack it, AI models trained on it could become more interpretable and therefore more trustworthy.
Neuroscience projects like Microns could also help AI address the efficiency issue, learning faster and requiring less data. But most importantly, it could also lead to new treatments and therapies for brain disease.
I think already we're going to see that it's going to be a collaboration between AI and humans to understand the brain. So that's number one. Then we have to understand it to cure diseases, right? Because, neuropsychiatric diseases, neurological diseases, as our population is aging, we see people suffering, of course, from a lot of like aging diseases of the brain, but also, of course, depression, autism, other diseases, right? But third, also we believe that by comparing brains and machines, we can bring science to intelligence, and it's not just brute force engineering. So that's why I think it's a very exciting era, because it's a very unique thing to be doing neuroscience, because there's three things you can tackle: basic science, medicine, and AI, understanding intelligence in general. So it's very unique.
The Microns Project reveals what's possible when brilliant minds work together. Just like the Human Genome Project provided a blueprint for genetics, Microns offers a tool that may help researchers better understand neurological conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or even autism.
Programs like the National Institutes of Health's Brain Connects are already looking to expand this work to map the entire mouse brain and long-distance connections in the human brain, pushing the boundaries of what was once thought impossible. I'm Amatia Drisi.
And I'm Liz DeWicki. Thank you to Andreas Tolias for sharing his insights on the Microns Project and the future of AI.
This episode of Lab Notes was produced by Amatia Drisi, Peter Kim, Liz DeWicki, and Rob Piercy. For more episodes and science research news, visit our website, alleninstitute.org.
Thanks for listening.